Welcome to the Teachers Lounge. Today we're with Miss Angel, teacher at Peak Charter Academy, and we are talking about COVID in the classroom. So thank you for joining us.
Wow.
I think first things first, how is the school year going?
It's going. I think it's honestly been a whirlwind to say the least for teachers, staff, parents, students. I think it really made us grateful for what we've been doing. Just being in a classroom full of students, which I know at times was so overwhelming, but now we're just like, oh, I want my kids back. So moving into hybrid, or at least seeing them on camera, is so much better than we thought it would be. Like, it's something that we really took for granted, is being able to see our kids every day.
Let's go back to, because everybody's neck deep into this by now. Everybody's kind of got their feet under them when it comes to COVID and working remotely, teaching hybrid, or however you're operating this world. When March happens, what is that like for a teacher experiencing a global pandemic? States are shutting down, schools are closing, and figuring out what's next. What's it like going through that in real time?
Chaotic. I think at first, whenever I first heard about it, I was like, pandemic, like, okay, like, we're gonna have to wipe down the desks and everyone's gonna have to actually learn how to cough. Like, okay. And then I think all this happened. We're like, oh, cool. Like, maybe like a long weekend, like, ooh, maybe like an extra week off. And then we're like, oh no, wait, this is like a thing. Like, this is the thing. And it was just the more and more we kept learning about it, and the more communication we were getting from our administrators, it was just like, wait, what's happening? Wait, what are we supposed to be doing? Wait, how are we going to do that? Wait, what is that? What are these all new apps happening? I don't know how to use Google Classroom. It's just like, it was like, I feel like I was on an I Love Lucy whenever with the chocolates, and they just keep going, and I'm shoving chocolate in my mouth and trying to survive.
And that's from different teachers that I've heard of. That was the tough part of when you thought you had one thing figured out, three more things had to figure out, kind of to your point of, well, the school's closed. Okay, how are we going to teach? Okay, here's Google Classroom. Okay, now I need to figure out Google Classroom. What's that like, having this many things thrown at you and trying to learn all these things?
So I'd like to think that I was a pretty techie teacher. Like, my master's degree is in STEM concentration. I was just like, psh, I know how to dual screen my computer, like Control Alt Delete all day long. Like, I got it. But as soon as all this happened, it was very humbling, because I was like, oh, I know nothing. I was like, oh, okay, this is wow. And it was I really had to lean a lot on my teammates, and we were collaborating, I feel like, more than ever, because trying to figure out new technologies and how to use Google Meet and Google Classroom and all these other different, like Blocksy and all these other different programs that we're using. And it was super overwhelming. And then also trying to work with your kids, because I have kids that would come to school every day, and trying to get them to turn anything in was like pulling teeth. I was like, please, anything. I gave you the paper, and then it just like magically vanishes. And then doing that while they're sitting at their computer, like if they ever come to the computer, or like if they're just like a ghost, like you're trying to summon someone, like you're sitting there in a Google Meet, they might have their little icon up, and there's no one. They're just like, Jimmy, are you there, Jimmy? Please give us a sign that you're there, Jimmy. And it's just so frustrating, because I'm like, part of my job is creating those relationships, and so trying to do that at first was so difficult, because you're just talking to a screen, and then your time is only for that structured content. You want to make a lot of time for that that building relationships piece that you take advantage of in the building.
That's actually something I've heard quite a few teachers express to me of, okay, it happened in March. You knew your students, you had relationships with them for the next 3 months until summer vacation. Now, what was normally very important relationship building with new students at the beginning of the school year is now virtual. How are you building these relationships virtually? To your point, you have kids that might not be logged on, or like, hey, are you paying attention? Your screen's black. What's going on? How do you start building those relationships? Because everybody knows teacher-student relationships is one that's very important.
Oh, 100%. It's, that's that's the foundation of any subject, no matter what you're teaching. You have to know your kids, because if they feel like they don't have a relationship with you, then they're not really motivated as much to do that work for you, to learn from you. Like if you feel like you don't, if you come off as like you don't want to be there, they're not going to want to be there. So building that from the beginning is so crucial. And so doing that in the beginning of the year was, especially when you're virtual, you're talking to a screen all day. It was really tough. Obviously we already knew how big building those relationships were, but I think it really challenged me as a teacher of, okay, how can I do that? How can I reach them through a screen? And I think that was really the biggest thing. And honestly, one huge takeaway that I've learned in just trying to build relationships is just having conversations with them like normal people, like asking them every day we start our class, like when I'm welcoming them, I make sure to say their name. Hey, how's it going? Noticing new things about them. And one thing we do in every class periods, just about every single day, is good news. So like it's really easy for us to think negatively or think about, oh, I wish things were back to the way they were, and really be pessimistic about it. But I really try and focus them on good news. So that's something that I know NHA does as a whole. And we use that as kind of like a homeroom thing sometimes, but I think that has been an overarching theme throughout every one of my classes, whether it's my random, block 2 science class, or whether it's my homeroom, whether it's my elective class, or whether I've already seen these kids today and it's just a different class. And just knowing what's going well in their life is super important, because they're getting to share something about you. Maybe I get to know that it's their great aunt's twice removed cousin's cat's birthday, and that's really important to them. Cool. Or they'll literally have like a 6-month countdown. It's my sister's birthday in 6 months. I'm like, cool. They're like, the next day, it's my sister's birthday in 5 months and 30 days. I'm just like, neat. Just figuring out what's important to them, what's going on in their lives, knowing about like, hey, we had our first soccer practice today. And I'm like, you guys are playing soccer. That's awesome. What time? Where do I need to go? I was like, because I was just letting them know. I'm like, hey, if you have dance recitals, if you have soccer games, if you have art shows, let me know. Get your parents, send me the information. Let me know what time. I'll bring the cowbells. I'll bring the signs. I'll bring the pom-poms. I'll do all the things, because I like knowing what's going on in your life, even outside the school. I'm like, I know I'm your science teacher, but I don't want to talk about science all the time, most of the time. Not all the time. I want to get to know about you. But just asking them like, what's going well in your life? What are you happy about today? And it makes a huge difference. And I feel like that's really what made them open up. They look forward to sharing. They ask, should we go ahead and share good news? Can we start good news? Can we do good news? And just because they're excited to share and hear about each other, and they're in the comments like, oh, that's so cool. Tell your great grandmother's cousin's cat's happy birthday for me. And I'm just like, okay, yay, Fluffy. But it's or on Fridays, I've started doing this, in the regular classroom as well, like bringing it into there. Every Friday we share. Every Friday is Grateful Friday. So tell me something that you're grateful for today, because I really want. It's so easy to have that negative attitude about, you broke a shoelace, you got your gum stuck in your hair, you hit your elbow on the door, like your little sister took the toy out of the cereal box. Like there could be a lot of things. So I'm like, well, what's something that you're grateful for today? And I'm like, it could literally be the fact that you have 2 working legs that walked you into school today. It could literally be that you got the strawberry Crystal Light packet for your water bottle. Like whatever it is, it could be it's your birthday today. But just, I think adding those little bitty things of that positive mindset and that positive outlook, and purposefully looking for things to be grateful for and to think good thoughts about, it's made a huge difference. And it tells me more about the kid. It makes them share and, get along. Like they can make connections with their classmates. They're like, oh, no way, my brother's birthday is in 9 months. Like they just get really excited, and they feel like they're creating their own community, because we have new students that are starting a brand new school with kids they are only going to see in little boxes like the Brady Bunch. But so it's really tough for them. So I want to make sure that I'm making them feel more like we're a family.
So I'm not a teacher, but the one thing that I think I've struggled the most with during this pandemic and working from home all the time and everything's virtual is there's no more cutoff anymore. You know, it used to be at 5:30, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whenever the workday's over for us, you got to leave, you got to drive home. There was some sort of disconnect. And I know a lot of teachers take things home with them or stay after school, but normally there was some sort of disconnect. It was, okay, my day is over. Did you struggle with that at all, teaching virtual, where it felt like the school day all of a sudden was 20 hours long?
In the beginning, I definitely think I had no limits. Like I was just working all the time. I felt like I was overwhelmed. I was always in a meeting or talking to someone, emailing or making lessons or trying to learn a new thing. And now I feel like now that we've got back in the swing of things and we've kind of gotten to a rhythm at some point, I'm able to like, okay, I have to set boundaries for myself, or this is going to be we're going to burn right out. So just kind of checking in and making sure I make those boundaries for myself as well as my kids.
How did you start making those boundaries for yourself to make sure you didn't get burnt out, to make sure you weren't working all the time, especially when you were teaching remote? Because there's still a lot of teachers out there that are 100% remote that I'm sure are going through exactly what you just described of constantly answering emails, in meetings, feel like you're never done, never caught up. How did you start building these boundaries, even just for sanity standpoint? So, I mean, because that's something that I know a lot of people are struggling with, and you know, people are looking to other people to say, how do I do this? How do I turn this off? You know, I'm working more than I ever have. I'm constantly home on my laptop. I feel like I can't get away from this. How do you start building those boundaries?
I think for me, it's just making a schedule for myself and figuring out, okay, this is my list of things to do. When can I compartmentalize like my day? When can I find time to do this? And like once it hits, you know, I do the main things I have to do, and at whatever that cutoff point is, and especially now that I have a dog at home, it's my motivation to like, I need to get done to get home to my fur child to make sure. And because I know for a fact, I know me as a person. And the last time we talked, I'm like, if I try to take it home, it's not gonna get done.
And that's actually one of the things I was wondering about with you is being home all the time now. Like that's the space of peace. That's the place of.
This is my dojo of tranquility. Yes. And I think now that like, you know, I've been able to create, now that I'm in my house, I have an office. And so this is like, when I'm in here, I have to work and I have to be in here from this time to this time. And this is when I work. And so just kind of creating that space and compartmentalizing my time and just making sure that like, okay, whenever I'm in here, you know, I'm not watching, I don't know, Netflix. I'm not on random social media. Like I don't have my crazy dance music on. Like I got to be in here. I got to focus, because that means whenever I leave this room, like I leave all my stuff in that room and I can be a normal human being. But I mean, there's definitely going to be times where I'm still grading stuff like while trying to watch The Office. Like it's going to happen. But it's doing my best to make sure that school stays at school so that I have a little bit of work-life balance. Because I think that's really what's wearing people out, is the fact that, like you said, it's just work nonstop all day long. It's not a 9 to 5 anymore. It's a 9 bar back down to 9. So just
How important do you think those boundaries were to put on, that this is my school time, this is my school room, this is my school hours? Because in theory, that's great to think of. But when 4 o'clock hits or 5 o'clock or 6 or whatever time you've given yourself comes, how important is that to say, okay, my quote unquote work time is done, even though I'm at home, I have to step away?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really just, it's for your mental health, honestly, because I think that's something that no one really focused on as much when it came to work. I think everyone, like before all this happened, I think it's been a real switch to mental health wise, is that, hey, I think everyone just kind of realized like, oh my gosh, like we're working ourselves to the bone, we're freaking out, we're overwhelmed. like everyone feels just like the weight of the world is on their shoulders. And so I know like our administrators have been working out like, hey, you have this half day, you have like this one meeting, and then the rest of the day is yours. Use this time to get your stuff done. And then at boom, this time you're good. Relax, get away from your computer. And it's just something that I have to tell myself, like, work hard now, relax later, and just to separate that time. Because honestly, it's all about that peace of mind. Because I mean, as a teacher, you're always going to be worrying about your students and the workload and whatever's going on with them. It's never something that you can really clock out of. That's part of the job.
Mm-hmm.
But what you can do is set those boundaries for you so that you are taking a little bit for yourself. And also it's helped me because my focus is like all over the place. I have the same attention level as my students. I'm just like, I am, whoo. So but I have to make sure that like I keep myself on a schedule, like just like I would tell my students, to make sure like you're using your time wisely, you're focusing on the task at hand, and you're rewarded with being able to do that free time later. And whether that's creating a certain space for you, whether that's making timers, I'm a very listy person. So I'm just like, I got my top priorities, and then like if I'm feeling like I'm really still focused, I'll go knock these out too. So, and honestly, just taking it one day at a time.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad to hear that these boundaries that you built for yourself and these time limits actually worked, because it's one thing. And I know a couple of people that have struggled that they say, okay, I'm done at X o'clock, and then X o'clock comes and it's like, I'm home. There's nothing else to do. My laptop's already open. I might as well keep going. But it's good to have that cutoff just for peace of mind, for, work-life balance, mental health, whatever you want to call it. It's good to have that, because I mean, everybody's missing that disconnect when you leave your place of work and it's just like, well, I'm home still. I might as well just keep chugging along. One thing that
from like the chair to the couch.
Exactly. One thing that has been, I'm super curious to know is, so you've been teaching your whole career one way, and then the pandemic hits. Do you think once you get back, whether it's a vaccine or whatever gets us over the hump, where we're back in the classrooms, people are back at work, all your kids are back in class, do you think that there's anything from teaching in the pandemic that you will take with you moving forward?
Oh, 100%. I think, especially because we had to become that IT tech support, I realized how many incredible apps and different things that we've been missing out on, or that have been created in all this. Like Google Classroom is my new best friend. I'm like, I never want to have to hand out another worksheet as long as I live. It's been so nice, especially because it has that automatic grading feature. I am so on board. So I love that everything's time stamped, like using Google Docs and Google Slides. We've been using that a lot, but also like being able to assign them and then like have that due date whenever kids are like, oh yeah, I totally turned it in, or oh yeah, I totally did that. I'm like, did you? Did you really? And also using programs like Blocksy to make sure my students are using technology appropriately. And so that way I'm not having to like wander all around the room trying to make sure that everyone's, not on random sites. Like I'm able to use that program to make sure that my students are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Like they're using that technology appropriately. And it also allows me to share things with them. Like I can put something on their screen. We can all be on the same page moving. And it really helps those transitions a lot easier, rather than, okay, I put the link up on the board. Everyone like try and put in the link. Let's go together. Do you have it? Do you have it? Nope. Go backspace. And it's just like, it makes it a lot easier. I think it's made us accelerate into the future of education a little bit too fast. But I also like we've come across things like Flipgrid, which are they're videos that people have already made, and you can ask questions as the video comes up. I can make my own Flipgrid. So if I'm not if I can have them in a small group and I am like teaching a lesson and have them questions, right along with it, and then that's another station I can have where they still are working with me technically. I'm just on their screen. So it's definitely a lot of things that I'm going to be bringing back into the normal classroom.
So this might be an indelicate question. You can tell me to go kick rocks if you want me to. But once we get back to normal, and it's hard finding a silver lining anywhere right now. But do you think during all of this, once we get back to normal, do you think you'll be a more efficient teacher? With the technology side, with kind of what you're talking about, with no more worksheets and doing stuff, everybody's individuals. Now you can do all of the stuff in Google or not Google Analytics, sorry, in Google Classroom, in Google Sheets. You have timestamps, the grading features. Do you think that'll help moving forward once we're officially out of this?
I mean, I definitely think it's going to help. Will it make me more efficient? Maybe like because we've been practicing with it so much, and kids will be so used to it. I would assume, but you know what they say about assuming. But I think hopefully we see this as a way for technology to help us. And now that schools have been, or at least our school has definitely made sure that people have access to the technology, like everyone does. So we're one-to-one now, which has been huge. And so finally we've been asking for that. And I think this huge pandemic was the final push that we needed to finally get everyone a device. And so I feel like that in itself is going to make things a lot more efficient because, when we're not working with a lot of papers, we're not having to be shoving everything in backpacks and trying to find things. And I think becoming a little bit less paperless, yay for the environment. But I think in general, if this is where things are moving, obviously there's always going to be paper pencil activities for us to do. Because I'm a very hands-on person. I love building projects and doing things with the hands, but I think moving towards that more online paperless type of thing is definitely going to make things a little bit more efficient.